This is a Headgum podcast.
Is Andy your husband? Do you consider him your best friend?
You know what?
It's a controversial
I do now,
question.
and I wouldn't have said that. Like, I would have never... That wasn't my goal. Like, I'm not someone who was like... I'm
so sorry. Could you
come again? I
one more
couldn't make
time?
out what
Just
you were
one
saying.
more time on that.
you know?
Hi, Jessi
Liz
Klein.
Feldman.
Hi.
How are we doing?
I think we're doing good. Are we going to be honest that we're recording this on the day that our podcast premieres?
Let's be honest. Let's be transparent.
You know what I want to be? Open, vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
I want to be me and no one else.
I'm an open book. When someone says I'm an open book, I immediately feel like they're an idiot.
Yeah. When someone says I'm an open book, I'm like, they're hiding something.
They're hiding something. They have no boundaries. They're not safe.
Yeah. You don't need to be an open book. I'm happy to go one page at a time.
One page at a time. I'll read a foreword.
Yeah, honestly. I'll read the book jacket and then I'll decide.
Yeah. Let me decide if I want to finish the whole book. I like that you're like, I want to be open and vulnerable. And now we're just attacking people. Perfect vibe for day one. I will confess two things. One, a quickie, which is that I'm a little tired tired but excited because we have a great guest today. But a little tired because last night I put up a new shower curtain.
I'm so sorry?
I put up a new shower curtain
Yourself?
and liner myself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob Vila. A reference 11 people will get in the audience.
But all the people who matter. It's the most exhausting thing a person can do.
I am extremely impressed.
It was impressive.
I didn't realize that you were a DIYer.
It's just I'm living that single girl life. You
know what?
I'm homesteading.
You're making jams.
I have so many mason jars.
Sewing quilts.
Oh my God, it's giving Merkel. So that's one thing. But again, thank you for seeing me and appreciating how much work.
No, listen, I am
put into
also
the shower
tired
curtain.
because I have a toddler.
You're just going to be eternally tired for
I'm
a while.
eternally tired. I eternally have a cold.
You eternally have a cold.
And my heart is filled with joy.
And your heart is filled with joy, and there's probably a stain on you somewhere that you aren't aware of.
Oh, I know exactly where it is.
Where's the stain?
I honestly think that the microphone is like perfectly
covering the stain. Okay,
the stain.
don't move.
I won't.
Update 2.
Yes, please.
We've been talking, you and I have been talking about this off pod.
Yeah.
But then we're like, let's bring it on pod.
I think we should save it for the pod, which is a thing that we now say to each other
Save
constantly.
it for the pod. We've kind of ruined our relationship outside of the podcast.
We don't have any conversations because it starts to sort of get interesting, and then I'm like, save it for the pod.
So for the last week or two, I have been experiencing some loneliness, which feels embarrassing and vulnerable to say, but I've really been thinking, it was just like a confluence of things. My kid is away at camp. I had plans with friends, and then those friends had to cancel for very legitimate reasons. Yeah. And just like more nights than I had planned to be alone in a row occurred. And at some point, I felt like I was starting to fucking lose it.
I totally
And I
understand
started
that.
to feel like I was going into kind of like a
Howard Hughesy kind of place?
I was going to say leaving Las Vegas.
Whatever it is, it's not a reference from the last 25 years.
No, it's just for people 48 and up, which is the people I like to communicate with. But I really started to get so anxious and started to be like, do I have friends? And then I start but I know I have friends.
Baby girl.
But
you
then,
got friends. But I understand the loneliness thing. I really
started to do the thing where I was like counting my friends in my head. And I'm like, okay, so it would be this person. And because I started to feel like I was going crazy.
I think of you as a person who has so many friends and is the most friendable person I've met in so long. But I completely understand what you mean, because if I go if Rachel, my wife, is out of town, or the same thing happens and people just cancel plans, I do start to feel very untethered.
Actually, untethered is the perfect word.
It's very untethering. And also, I think because, not to be like so on the nose about things, but you and I are very extroverted people. We get our energy from our friends, from other people. So when you don't have that, you really do start to feel depleted.
Yeah.
And
untethered.
Untethered. And I do start to feel a little bit of madness come in.
I started to feel a little bit of madness come in. And then, usually what makes you feel better when you're in that state is to ruminate on it and try and figure it out.
Actually.
And drink a lot alone. So I was doing that.
And did that help?
Ordered a shower curtain. Serena and Lily, it's tassels. I don't know. Anyway.
Sounds like you do know, and I think it's adorable.
So more on that later. But I started to think, like, why am I like this? And I realized, and you and I have talked about this before, and we're going to talk about it a little more now, like that we were both slightly lonely kids.
Yeah, I'd say very.
Very lonely
very
kids.
Very lonely children. Because, we grew up very close to each other in New York City. Not with each other, sadly.
Not with each other.
I wouldn't have been as lonely.
And it's part of why this will be, I feel like, a very fun episode because we'll get there. But
our guest is also from New York City.
Also from New York City. And I think there's so many things that are specific about that. But I didn't really know how to make friends. This is one thing I was thinking about. I don't have, it's like what dogs have. I have what dogs have, and it's something rabies. Dogs don't have object permanence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is why, like, when you tie a dog up to a pole to run into the store, they freak
out.
They're like, they're gone forever.
Yes.
And that's how I feel about friends. Like,
totally
I
get
can't
that.
hold the security of, like, people are coming.
Yes,
back.
that resonates so strongly and like truly makes me, it's triggering, but also sort of like bittersweet because it reminds me of being a child in Brooklyn in New York City. And I grew up on the side of a highway. So I literally—
Which one?
The Gowanus Expressway.
Oh, gorgeous.
I literally couldn't play outside because my backyard was a highway.
Yeah, you can't play there.
No, and also we grew up in the 80s, and so, it was like prime kidnapping.
It's kidnap time.
It was peak child snatching.
Kidnap o'clock.
It was like, hey, there's a white van and a man giving you candy.
Yeah.
That's a no. That's a big no.
Great.
And we weren't allowed to play outside.
That's like I think like people don't understand if you didn't grow up in New York City, there's no really like playing, because no one really, I mean, a few people might have a yard, but
not really.
Not really.
And it's not safe. It wasn't safe, especially in the 80s. So like you couldn't go meet your friends or your schoolmates like at the playground because, you would literally get taken.
You could be taken. You could be taken. And also like, I was thinking about my parents, who I love, saying that because they might listen, but probably won't. My parents were working so hard. Mm-hmm. My dad had like literally 3 jobs. My mom was also working. And they didn't have friends. Like I don't think they had time for friends. They may have once had friends, but they had 3 kids.
Yep.
And then 4 jobs. And I didn't have any experience of like watching people make friends. And I didn't realize till I was an adult that most people's parents had friends.
Same. What's so weird is my parents had some friends, but they weren't like incredibly social. My mother is definitely more of an introvert.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like there were like parties going on at my house or anything like that. It felt very quiet.
Yeah.
And very, like I felt my weirdest, like strongest memory is I would stand in the window. I would stand in the window in the front of my house. Like if somebody was like coming over, I would just wait there for them, even if it was like hours before they were coming. Like if it was a relative or sometimes even like my mom. We had sort of a brick house like the Cosbys, but less.
But less. So like the Cosbys, but a little less.
But not as nice. But like my mother's office, my mom's a doctor, and her office was in our basement.
Yeah.
And I would run down there and just try to and like say hi to the patients, and like they were my friends because that was the best I could do. And if it wasn't that, I just would be standing in the window kind of like waiting for somebody to walk by that maybe I knew.
Okay, this is really blowing my mind because, and I don't think we've ever discussed this before, I'll meet you your window.
Okay.
And I'll raise you also window. We grew up on the top floor of a 6-story building, walk up, no elevator.
Brag.
Parents still live there on a very busy avenue. And because we had no friends, I did have my 2 siblings.
Yes, same.
That we were basically raised. We can't go outside.
Can't go outside.
We were basically raised like cats, wherein we would sit at the window, and our 2 big games were counting yellow taxis as they went by. Like just counting yellow taxis.
Yeah, it's a great game.
And then counting also, and this, again, dating myself, counting Trans Ams as they went by because they had that hood with the big eagle.
They sure
and that
did.
was like, ooh,
So
there goes
cool.
someone rich. So I guess counting rich people driving by. And like, that was kind of the childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really what it's like to grow up in New York City. I was allowed to play just in, like, and this was like maybe once I was 9 or 10, just in front of our house, which was 20 feet wide.
I mean,
And I mean,
brag.
I had the freedom of an incarcerated murderer. It was very prison yard. It was like I could just sort
Were
of
you
walk
lifting
back and
weights?
forth. Yes,
Did you
I was
lift weights
very
out there?
buff. Very buff.
Yeah.
But that was it. And if I was outside of the sort of, limitations of the width of our house, my mother would yell out the, out the door.
She doesn't want you to get snatched.
No. And so I think perhaps that maybe set us up
For the feelings of going insane.
for the feelings of going insane when we don't feel like there are people around, because like some of my best friends growing up were my Legos that I pretended were people.
Liz! You mean the minifigs?
Yeah,
What the kids call them now minifigs.
I'm not even talking about the minifigs. I'm talking about a Lego block that I pretended was a person.
Stop.
And then another Lego block that I pretended was that person's friend.
Wait, why couldn't it at least have been the minifigs?
Didn't have them.
Liz,
Nobody got them for me.
stop. Oh my God. It's like fucking Castaway.
I mean,
You're like fucking, did you write Wilson on a Lego block and just talk to it?
I mean, I would have if that movie had come out, but yes. I mean, that's truly like I really was a sort of a really lonely kid, even though I had siblings and, I did have, I guess I had friends, but not in my house
Yeah.
and not anywhere close.
Well, I'm very interested to talk to
Same.
Our very special guest today, who will compare and contrast notes. I bet she's just going to be like, I had a beautiful childhood with tons of friends. And then we'll feel like real fucking losers.
Today's friend is a WGA Award-nominated comedian, actress, writer, and producer who has written for shows like Broad City, amazing, Great News, hilarious, Mythic Quest,
So great.
fantastic, and St. Denis Medical. She plays Carol in Mythic Quest and has also appeared in movies like Family Switch and Me Time. Naomi Ekperigin, you're here to make friends!
Hey, that's so scary to hear it out loud. Here to make friends.
I know.
Listen, there's no pressure.
There's no pressure.
But we would like to take this to another level with you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll
love
leave
it.
that for the end where we actually really go.
That's true. Go in hard.
hard.
Yeah, we're
Go
gonna
hard, go so hard in the paint. Again, you're another New York City gal. Is anything that we're talking about ringing a bell, or are you just like, what losers?
Well, first of all, I'm going to see both of you talking about, I don't have friends, but I have siblings, and raise you only child. Okay?
Okay.
You
Wow.
talking about you afraid of getting snatched. I was in Harlem in the 80s.
Okay.
Your people didn't even go north of 14th Street. Okay?
Still don't. Still don't.
Yep.
Still don't.
Still
okay? But now Harlem is given, it's like, ooh, Red Rooster. So now no one's afraid. And so now you tell people you're from Harlem and they're like, ooh. And I'm like, no, baby, not then.
No.
Not then. So most certainly,
Yeah,
I was-
Doogie Howser lives in Harlem now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
Well, when Doogie moved there, it was big because he was up there. He was like on 113th, and I remember like it was the beginning of the gentrifiers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he was
Oh,
up
yeah.
there before. He was like the first. Because that's the thing. The first white wave is usually white gay men because they have some income.
Yep.
They also are not as afraid to walk streets because they're men.
Yes.
So they're like, I'll go uptown, but
Yeah.
also like 110th. We're not going crazy.
Yes.
It's first the gays and then everyone else follows.
Yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah.
trailblazers, but mostly just the gay men.
First the gay,
Yeah.
former childhood doctors.
Exactly.
Than everyone
Exactly.
else.
wealthy gay child star.
Yes.
Than everyone else.
I now know so many people that live in Harlem. It's the place to be.
But it was different then. We were in a different time.
It was a
But you
different
are
time.
younger than us by a bit.
By a lot.
A little, but yeah, but it's still, yeah.
New York City is different.
Yes, absolutely.
Go on. Okay, so
Absolutely.
only child in Harlem.
Yeah, with just me and my mother. Okay, so I was an indoor kid to the max. I'm sitting there reading my stories. And
Yeah.
by stories, I mean Babysitter's Club. You know what I mean? Like, in there, I'm reading my Nancy Drews. I feel like I read Flowers in the Attic at age 11.
Oh,
That gives you
okay.
any sense
Yeah,
of
very
how much
dark.
time I had to myself. I was like,
Yeah.
I get it. They're in this attic and they're doing what they have to do.
Now that story is about incest, correct?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yes.
Maybe as an only child, it hits different.
It might
I don't
hit.
know.
It might hit different.
I was
Maybe
like-
just so grateful to be that only child, away from
I
these
knew it
diddling
was
siblings.
wrong. I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't believe people are letting me read this book. And I forget how I even got it, but I was like, I can read this. And then because it just is so vague as a title, Flowers in the Attic.
Yeah.
I thought I was getting one over on someone. But then I think actually, if you knew, you knew. And then adults were just like, wow, that child's a pervert. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't say anything.
How did the book get into the home? Did you purchase? Was it did your
Library?
mother read it? Was it a library?
No,
moment?
it was definitely a library moment.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And, I was also really into it's because I loved a Jane Eyre, a sad 18th century girl who was writing by candlelight, right?
Yeah, an ultimate staring alone out the window.
Oh, yes.
A Jane Eyre. Yes.
Fully. So initially, before the book gets incestuous and scary, it starts off with oh God, we're tragic and we have to go to this rich lady's house, but we're in the attic. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my goodness, she's gonna become a star. You think things are gonna go well. Do you know? Because you know that's how it starts, but then it's gonna be good. And then you keep reading, and then I was like, it was almost like car wreck reading. One of the first things where I was like, this is crazy, but I have to see how this ends. And then the fact that it was a series, I was like, no, I can't go further. I can't go further.
Wait, Naomi, were you allowed to play outside? You say you're an indoor child, but were you allowed to go outside?
Not by myself, and there was no one to go with. And I'll give you a sense too of this is what I say to people. So my mom, I grew up in Harlem. My mom's family is from Detroit. So I would spend every summer in Detroit.
Okay.
And Detroit, Michigan, to me, was the suburbs.
Yes.
So that should tell you a lot.
Yeah.
That I
Yes.
thought Detroit was, Detroit is where I learned to ride a bike.
Yes.
And I was, later than everyone. Because it was, me and my cousins, so we could do things as a group. You know what I mean?
right.
We could, ride our bikes around the corner to the candy store.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is idyllic. And then it was oh, wait, Detroit is actually crumbling. And that was a very dangerous place.
We're riding our bikes over just ripped up concrete, but
Yeah, and
still
I was
riding a
this
bike.
I know. I was like, this is beautiful. So so I was not outside at all. And trick-or-treating even. I remember we did trick-or-treating in the apartment building.
Yes.
There was the list of people who say, you can knock on my door, there will be candy.
Yes.
And then we just rode the elevators and went to the people who had candy.
Yes, just to pause there.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that is such a New York City thing.
Yes, it
As
is.
someone who has now lived in LA for several years, and my son is 9, but we've been during Halloween, I am having my first experience of this whole
Yep.
going house to house life where I'm it feels very foreign to me.
Yeah.
Because we did just used to go find, we would go to the NYU professor housing, which I think felt like the safest of places. We did not live in that building, but we would invade that building. And there was the list, and we would take the elevator to the 30th floor and just work our way down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was trick-or-treating.
Yeah, I trick-or-treated again just on my block. And
mean-
with my parents watching or my mother
Of course.
watching with an eagle eye.
Eagle eye.
With our very puffy
Yes.
jackets on.
Oh, the decimation.
Oh, yeah.
But when you're in the building, you do get to take
that's
off
better.
that.
Right, you
That's
can have the
better.
costume fully out.
You can have
and,
the
you're
costume
just-
fully
yeah.
out. And just for the record, I was dressed as Groucho Marx for several years in a row. Just
That says so much.
it says a lot.
Yeah, it tracks.
And it wasn't slutty Groucho. It was
No.
Well,
Groucho.
but when we were growing up, that wasn't a thing yet, to be the slutty version of something.
I wouldn't know. I just, would leave my taxi counting position in the window and leave for a couple hours and come right back.
I was definitely Raggedy Ann with the same like plastic. Remember the plastic
Yes.
costumes?
Yes, the
Plastic
costumes in a
mask.
bag. The
Costume
costumes
in
in
a
a bag.
Yeah, with the very hard plastic mask. I was
Yes.
Raggedy Ann.
That would like cut the sides of your face.
Oh, yeah.
Like the end of the
Yeah.
night, you'd be sort of bleeding
Yes.
from the contour of your own face.
I have like 4 years in a row in that costume. Like as I progressively get bigger and the costume progressively gets smaller.
Yes. I did transfer at some moment from Groucho to, or no, before Groucho, I was a black cat because I could make that from I had a leotard and black tights.
Yeah.
And I would also buy one of those razor sharp little masks. And then the pièce de resistance was that my mom bought me like a stuffy tail and sewed it onto the tush.
That's great.
Good.
Well, it was-
that's a step up.
Yeah,
it
it
was
really is.
great the first year.
Oh.
But then the stuffing started to travel down the tail.
You became mangy. You
It
became
be-
mangy.
It became mangy. I was like rumple, whatever the cat is in cats.
Catskin?
Rumple catskin. But just it was like a skinny tail and then a big lump of stuffing at the bottom.
Well, now I'm really trying to remember what. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like Rumpledore. No, what was?
What are the names of any cats?
I know
and
it's
cats?
like rumbledy-ramp.
Rumbledy-ramp,
It's like
yes.
too much. It's like too much. and
Mumblecore.
Yes.
Exactly. Make a long name.
Mumblecore the cat.
Yeah, you were Rumbledy Tumbledy too.
I was Rumbledy Toops, but the mangiest.
Yeah, the main disc. But so it sounds like you
version.
got your DIY skills from your mom.
I do not
Yeah.
have, my putting up a shower curtain. Can I also just say one other
Yeah,
thing?
of
Because
course.
you bringing up reading Flowers in the Attic and feeling like, oh, am I the naughtiest girl in the world alone in my room reading the perviest book that's ever been written by fucking absolute degenerates? My parents had, my dad is like a huge reader and that the apartment is very small, but
So many books.
so many books floor to ceiling. And at some point approaching puberty,
Oh, my
I was
God.
scanning for any little flash of skin or something. And I found a copy of the Erica Jong book, Fear of Flying.
Okay.
And
Is that sexual?
it is a famously sort of sexual, the phrase zipless fuck came from there were
Oh,
2 or 3 scenes that
Erica can turn a phrase.
Erica was just writing boobs out.
By the way, I have such a similar story of my parents having so many books, being big readers, and being in adolescence and finding the book Everything You've Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask.
Oh, yeah.
Jackpot.
I couldn't believe it, and it also I had to sort of skip past the fact that my parents own this book.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it creates more questions than it really
it does, but I
answers.
think that's probably when I learned to compartmentalize.
You're and that's when I shut down.
And I took the book and I definitely went, I'm going to be honest, more than page by page through that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That was
mean,
an open book for
If
me.
you have a copy, I'd love to borrow.
Okay. It's in the mail.
Did they know you had it? Was this something you were hiding from your siblings too? Were you all gathered around a flashlight at night
Great
under
question.
the covers?
I am by far the youngest in my family. So I have a sister 5 years older, a brother 7 years older, and parents who also worked a lot. So I had a lot of
You had the run of the house.
time by myself to do
Yeah.
things like steal books from their bookshelf. And I believe there were diagrams in this book
Yes.
that were very instructive.
Yeah.
And
A diagram.
remember
an 80s
those
diagram.
80s diagrams,
Oh, sure.
like full bush,
Full
you know?
bush,
Yeah.
just
But pencil drawing.
Pen-
It was all pen and
pencil.
ink or pencil.
Yes,
really just black and
exactly.
white.
It's a very thin line.
Yeah.
Very thin line, and then also everyone's in a very natural pre-Ozempic body. God
Very.
bless.
Very.
And also, it feels like everyone's a little high, based on the eyes.
Yeah, just based on the pupils.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you speak to any other New York City specific things that I don't know, affected your growing up in a way that stand out to you? Were you in an apartment building or a brownstone?
I was in an apartment building. I think for me, something that really is starting at the age of 10. So I was in Harlem, but I went to school on the Upper East Side. So I was taking the bus by myself. Shout out to the M101, honey.
Yes!
Down Lexington,
The
honey.
were you
Third.
flashing a card, like the student card where you get on totally for free? Or was it half
yes.
fare?
No, it was a full. It was a full.
Full pass.
It was a full.
Okay.
And it was back when the passes were paper.
Yeah,
You guys remember those?
I
you
had
know.
that paper pass that like basically turned into like the original Constitution by the end of the year. So crinkled.
And also just like praying you didn't lose it. You know what I mean? If you lose it, it's a whole production.
Yeah,
She
there's
gone.
no digital backup.
It was like
No.
it was like a COVID vaccination card. When we first got those cards, we were like, "Really? This is what we're
Best
doing?"
we can do.
I have to keep this. This is everything.
Yeah,
and
this
now
is
it's like
everything.
No one's like, they're like, I don't care. But I taking the bus by myself from like the age of 10 or 11, for me, just colors so much of what it was. Because from such an early age, you have to, in the same way you're talking about like you're being afraid of being snatched.
Yes.
I think if you were a child in New York, you are taught pretty early on that the world is not inherently safe.
Yes.
In a way
Correct.
that other people, and I think that's kind of almost regardless of your, class. It's
Yes.
just the city is unpredictable.
The
Yes.
city
And I
is
think people who
dangerous.
don't grow up in a city like that don't necessarily have that. So I think from the age of 10 to be like, okay, I'm going to school, head on a swivel, talk to no one,
Yes.
trust no one,
Yes.
read your book, have your headphones, I'd have a Discman, you know what I mean?
Oh,
I'd like, listen to
yes.
my music, and like someone try to talk to me and be like, I don't hear them. And again, as people from New York who moved to LA, I'm moving the same way. Like, I'm really like, okay, why aren't people walking with their eyes up? Why aren't people moving at a clip?
Yeah.
Why is it that nobody knows what's happening on these streets?
Yes.
And I think that it's so like, in the sense too of like, when I leave the house, I don't expect the world to be safe. Like literally to this day, like no matter where I am, I'm like, you don't know what's out here. And that
In
to me
no
is
world.
so, that's direct result of growing up in
Yep.
the craziest city in the 80s and 90s.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's a full look over your shoulder at all moments.
Well, it is like eyes going around head, like from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to
Yep.
sleep. And when I meet people who did not grow up that way, they really are moving through the world in a completely different.
Yeah.
Casual.
It's
casual.
business cash. It's business cash. And like, I remember my mom's like, my mom, I love her so much, like, not a big advice giver in life. Like, let me leave the house in clothes that truly were not okay. Groucho Marx.
Yes.
Exhibit 1.
Yeah.
Tail with stuffing all down the side. Didn't notice. But her, like, ingrained into me was, like, keep your eyes out for weirdos.
Yep.
And if you see a weirdo, cross that street. And I am just still, meeting you
constantly.
yesterday on
Yep.
Hillhurst, scanning for weirdos. Cross the street if you see one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the only person we did see yesterday was Billie Eilish. But
True story.
you
Cross the
never
street.
know when
Cross the street.
when she could snap. When
Yeah.
she could snap.
I felt safe.
We also wanted to ask you, like, who do you remember, like, who was the first person you ever felt like, I have a friend now. Like, I'm really friends with this person. Like, we can sort of speak the same language. I feel seen.
I had a friend growing up. Her name was Asia. And we really grew apart kind of once, probably a couple of years into like when I got to Dalton and like middle school. We just were no longer in the same.
Dalton.
Oh, you went to
Yes.
Dalton. Bury the
Dalton.
lead. I went to Poly Prep.
Okay.
My goodness. And look at us now.
Look at us now.
Look at us now. Her mom and my mom were friends, and we started to hang out, and we like got along. And I don't even remember the details. Like when I think back, she was just my friend. Meaning I can't tell you when we met, but it felt very much like we were actually friends and not two people hanging out because our moms were together.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Having those people where you're like,
Yes.
yeah, I'll talk to you if our moms have us in the same room. And she and I like would actually have fun and like hang out, and I felt comfortable. Because I think being an only child and being very used to being by myself, I was actually much more comfortable with adults
Yeah.
for the longest.
A lot of only kids have
And I
that.
find a lot of other kids, I was like, they're scary, they're mean, they're gonna make fun of me for something, and I'm not gonna know what I'm doing wrong. And so I didn't necessarily go to other kids as like, this is gonna be fun. It was
Yeah.
like, I have to
Yeah.
hang out with you, I guess. Like, we're here. And like, I was actually a very shy kid too. Up until, don't know, maybe 8th grade, which is still young, but like when I was literally like, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna read my little book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of watch from a distance. And if you were nice to me, I was nice back. But I wouldn't like approach
Put
anyone.
yourself out
Yeah,
there.
I was same. I was also like very, very shy. But I do feel like there's sort of a dividing line in my life because I was really lonely, had gotten up to like counting 242,000 Trans Ams and just didn't have like friends. I just didn't know how to make them. And then in 4th grade, was beginning of 4th grade, was sat next to this girl, Molly, because our mothers knew each other. And she was really popular. And she like took me under her wing and became my best friend. And it like
Molly.
opened the world. And before that, the one other like friend I'd hung out with one day was this girl who our one thing in common was that we both had guinea pigs. And she had a girl
Okay,
guinea pig.
guinea pigs and Groucho Marx for multiple years.
It's painting a picture.
It's giving prom queen.
Yes.
It's giving varsity.
It's giving Miss America.
I'm so sorry. You didn't have friends?
No, look. Chumley and I had something special, and I hate to say, Chumley Chomp Klein and I were.
Wow.
We were very close. But yeah, before Molly, the only connection I had with somebody for one play date was she had a girl guinea pig, and I had Chumley, who was a confirmed bachelor, as you love to say, and we like had a really like a sort of a play date for the guinea pigs. Like I really felt like that was like a life-changing event to make that friend. I don't know if Asia felt life-changing in the same way.
A little, but then it's funny when you talked about sort of that object permanence of like being, a human golden retriever. I think that I have still to this day, but certainly when I was younger, I didn't know what it was to keep a friend across different spaces. Meaning, once I had gone over to Dalton and I was kind of in that world, I would see Asia a little bit, but kind of as my world got a little different, like I didn't know how to keep that friendship.
Yeah,
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like I remember something that I thought was so fun. I was like, I thought it was a white thing because also too going to Dalton, I was like very much like, oh, this is. I had a lot of things. First of all, the things I thought one, white people were going to be nice because of TV. And the one thing I also knew was that white girls wash their hair every day because on Saved by the Bell, they would always talk about, she's like, I'm washing my hair or I have to wash my hair.
Wow.
On Saved by the Bell.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, I know white girls wash their hair.
Wait, who was the one saying they were washing their hair? I watched
Like
Saved by the
Kelly
Bell.
Kapowski.
Oh, Kelly Kapowski.
Would be like, I have to go wash my hair. Or Jessie Spano was like,
Jessie
I'm washing
Spano.
my hair.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Or like she's like, or she comes down with the towel turban, and she's like, I'm washing my hair.
Oh,
my hair,
so
my
much
hair.
towel turban. Yes.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I was like, okay. So that's like that was my introduction to white culture. And then I got there and was like, I've never met people so mean.
Aw.
In a way that it was like adult mean. Like sometimes sometimes I say the TV show Gossip Girl is a documentary. Okay, I never watched it, but I was like, I lived it.
Yes.
It was a way to be like, there was like a cold and a calculating, and I was like, you don't even have your period yet. How do you know how to be this way?
You're not even bleeding, and you are cruel. You're cruel. You're a bloodless cruel.
Bloodless cruel.
Bloodless
the
cruel.
cruelty is the point.
Yeah, seriously.
the point.
Were you in did you start Dalton in like 5th or 6th grade?
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade. I started poly prep in 6th grade, and it was also a rude awakening because I had been in public school, had all, not like a ton of friends, but, like 3 friends. And they didn't go, they all went to school together somewhere else. And I started as this new kid. In this private school where, they had been all known each other at least a year earlier. And I was very quickly labeled a slut.
A slut? What? A slut?
I
can't make my voice any higher or louder.
I know.
Very quickly, like I was very friendly with the boys, and so I started.
They said,
that was your first
doing
mistake.
something.
Yes, so I maybe had like a couple of boyfriends, but like 6th grade style boyfriends, like holding hands, not even kissing, exchanging swatch watches kind of boyfriend.
That's fun. I do like a swatch exchange.
And
I do like a swatch
beautiful.
exchange.
Very, very quickly labeled a slut. And
I mean, a little bit that's cool. Like, I mean, I would have like paid a little money to just like for one day feel like, you know, I just had my
What? Like everyone's whispering? Like you wanted to be the subject of the whisper campaign?
You know, like I say about advertising, it's like, well, even if they're saying bad things, here they are talking about it. You know,
right?
Like,
All press is good press.
all press is
Yeah.
good press. I never, but that's not great. That's
wasn't
cruel.
great.
It's mean.
It was mean. There was a meanness.
There's a
and
meanness.
I can relate to. Who was your first friend at Dalton?
Oh my God, that's a good question. I got in with a group of gals. It was Becky and Coco.
Becky and Coco.
Becky.
The two of them, okay? Becky, okay. What I loved, she was BECCY. Okay,
Yes,
no,
Becky.
she was doing something else. She was doing something else.
BECCY.
Okay, she was doing something else.
Okay.
She was. It's funny because when you think sidebar, like, don't you feel like, especially now that you guys, you know, are out in the podcast world, and I've been doing the podcast for a long time. I like forget that anybody could hear it at any time.
Oh.
So I love to give a full-on government name last for the social. And then fully am like, don't do that.
Oh, I think about it constantly.
Oh, yeah.
And as soon as you said Becky and Coco, I'm like, oh, she's really going for it. She's
Well, like,
identifying.
right?
I mean, with the spelling.
Well, but Becky was, I remember so distinctly, they were both tinier than me. So this is the thing, like, so I started 6th grade, and I'm about 5'4", 5'5", in, you know, the age of 10. I'm already gotten
you're
some
a tall
breasts.
tall gal.
It's like,
Tall
and I'm like
drink of water.
tall, and like, they're also, Dalton kids that back then, they had started with pre-K. So these were kids who had been together
Yes.
from
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
And so like 6th grade is
They've
not
been
a time for a lot
bloodlessly
of
cruel
new-
together for 8 or 9 years.
The dynamic is set, okay? It's
dynamic
giving
is set.
Yellow Jackets, okay? Sick. And so, and I remember so distinctly, Becky, she was nice, but she was so bitchy. And I remember that she, like, because what I remember is she's like the first person who was like, come to my house after school. Because a lot of the Dalton kids, they all lived on the Upper East Side, right?
Yes.
So they were very close. So it was very much like walk home after school.
Yes, bipping and bopping from school to home.
Yeah. So she was like the first person who invited me over, and like she had a credit card, okay, at age 11.
Stop it!
And I was like, okay, who is this grown woman? Who is this grown woman? And then I remember so distinctly one time we were, because Coco, she was black. So we were new together, both the black girls. We lived uptown. So sometimes we would take the bus home, you know, together. But again, that was a friendship where it was like, I don't even know if she really wanted to be my friend as much as like we were kind of forced being new together in the same time in the same area. And then like Becky was sort of the connection. And so, but I remember this moment, we're like coming home and Becky like wanted to use a credit card to get something. And she called her mom on the payphone, okay? It's giving payphone.
It's giving payphone. It's giving a dime.
And she said, and then I remember, because I still feel, she goes, Mom, you're being a bitch.
Oh my God.
Thank the gasp. This is what I'm saying. And then me and Coco look at each other and we're like,
Whoa.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah,
we were
can you
like, this is crazy. Could you imagine? Exactly. Could you imagine saying that to your mom?
Absolutely
but
not.
I remember
No.
she did that and I was like, oh, this person could do anything. Like, I was like, I'm not safe. I'm not safe. If your own mother's a bitch,
Guys,
I'm
That's
not
a good
safe.
point.
in
What do you
the
do?
words of Kendrick Lamar, they not like us. I mean, if you are calling your mom a bitch on a payphone
At 11.
at 11
know.
because of your credit card,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a lot. I mean, I will say as a public school kid, and I know Stuyvesant was like a magnet school, but it was still a public school, and there were cool kids at the school, but it was still, Stuyvesant is a generally nerdy place.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, I had one friend who was really, really, like, pretty and popular with the boys, and she started to get invited to, like, private school parties. And so, and then I would sort of, you know, weasel my way into that invitation because it wasn't coming directly to me. You know, just put Chumley on a leash. Let's go. But anyway, like the first time I started going to those private school, like New York City private school parties where the parents are so rich, so they're away for the parents are not there.
Yeah.
They're away for the weekend and they are not checking in. And it was like, I truly remember the first one. It was like fucking Eyes Wide Shut, where it's like, what is the password? And the password is fellatio. And it's great. I'm like, what is this world?
Yeah.
it's the movie Kids. It's like, you know, remember the movie
Oh
Kids?
my God, Kids was too much. I mean, Kids is also why I was terrified of sex, okay? Because she just had sex one time with him and she had HIV.
Are you referring to the Virgin Surgeon? Yes. Kids was terrifying, and I want to say I am still terrified of sex and AIDS to this day.
Yeah.
To this day.
Thank you, Harmony Korine.
Terrified. Just throwing it out there in the pod.
Well, now speaking of sex,
Okay, Liz.
Okay,
Liz.
I'm just trying to think of a segue.
I guess this is what the slut talks about. That's all she thinks about.
The whole sort of idea of loneliness, I think, was very present for all of us during the pandemic.
I vaguely remember.
You vaguely remember?
Kind of something about it.
Yeah, it was a very triggering time. It definitely reminded me of looking out the window as a child.
Yeah.
Except I was looking out at the air thinking it might kill me.
Yes. Don't open that window.
No, I know.
Or open it.
Or
keep it open.
Yeah, Death Wish. How is your experience? How did you friend through the pandemic?
Okay, I'm going to tell you this. As somebody who still wears a mask in public spaces, who still, I'm doing this podcast with you over Riverside and here in person.
We're so
I
grateful.
still live in that world, and I will tell you this: I'm more isolated now than I was then, because at least in the height of the pandemic, there was a collective feeling that we were all on the same page.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I will tell you this: you know what really popped off for me, and still to this day. And Jessi, when you're talking about like being lonely in the house, I said, honey, are you sending voice notes? I live for a voice note. I am voice noting my friends. We are giving each other monologue. I am hearing the voice. You know what I mean? Like, I was doing Marco Polo. That was like really like, you know, in lockdown. It was like Marco Poloing people where we could do videos.
Marco Polo thrived.
But I still do voice notes. And I think this is the thing. It's like, I can kind of be by myself. And because here's the thing, especially if I know we're all alone, then I'm not alone. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's more when it's like, oh, everyone's doing stuff and I'm not in the mix. That's when I'm sad.
Yeah.
But when we are like all in the house, it kind of is like, isn't this crazy, guys? What are we doing? And like, I would do Instagram stories a lot because I didn't have a fucking stand-up comedy outlet. Like, I was afraid, but I actually didn't feel alone.
Right, because we're all doing the same.
That makes
Most
sense.
of us are doing the same thing.
And you were with your husband. You had
Sure.
Were you
That's
married
the part
yet?
of it. Sure.
Were you married yet at that time?
No, but it's still like we've been together. You know, we just celebrated 15 years. So you know, we've been together a very long
Mazel tov.
time. Thank you so much. And it's definitely like I know the difference of like having someone that you're living with, you know, during that time versus not, and you know, friends who lived alone. I know it was a totally different beast.
Yeah.
But I also really like I'll tell you this. I'm a person who really appreciated when there was, you know, no Wi-Fi on planes. I like when there is no expectation to do things.
Yeah.
And what I enjoyed is that we kind of all agreed that we ain't trying to do much. We just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, that's all I can do on a good day. So if we could all go back to lowering our standards and our expectations, Jessi put up a shower curtain. That's what we need to focus on.
That's right.
When I finished putting up that shower curtain, I laid down on the ground and I was like, I have made a day.
You're done. You're done.
Achievement has been achieved.
Yes. And what happened to that? What happened? You know, you, Liz Feldman, run around here saying, wait, why don't I do some more TV shows? Why not going to be a star? I got to be busy. Why don't I have another baby? You're doing too much. Okay? You need to come down.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Liz is very ambitious.
She's active. She's active.
She's active. She is active.
That's it's all out of anxiety, guys. It's all everything I do.
I know, but my anxiety makes me freeze. I wish my anxiety made me function.
My anxiety also makes me freeze. Now,
Really?
Can I ask this? Like, has there been any tension with friends now that, because I so relate to what you're saying, because I think even when we were coming out of the pandemic, like I was a very cautious, super cautious person because my son has asthma and they're immune compromised people. So I was like, I remember actually at one point early in the pandemic. I mean, I was like locking it down.
She was locking it
Yeah.
down. And I was so stir crazy that our friend Christy and I would take walks, except of course in masks.
Right.
10 feet apart from
Yes,
each other.
yes.
But we're both such
Yeah.
people that we needed to see each other. We would take walks like all around the East Side, and we would almost every day text Jessi to see, is she home? Can we say hi to her just from like across the street? Can we like wave at her? Can we blow her a kiss? And she never texted back. Like you were.
Oh, Jessi!
She was such a squirrel.
Oh no,
And
it was
very
fully
early.
like
It was early in our friendship, so I couldn't expect too
Right.
much. But I kind of thought maybe you didn't like me.
No, I was literally like acting like someone who is worried that like a tax collector has come to the door and I have to like turn the lights off and get under the bed. I think I just was like, I think I felt embarrassed. I was like, I don't know how to. And at one point you did ring the bell.
Aggressive? Too aggressive?
You know, look, we're all living our lives. I grabbed Chumley. But I've had this guinea pig for 40 years.
The bones of Chumley. The bones of Chumley.
I grabbed, guys, when the fires happened, Chumley's ashes were the first things that I loaded into the car. But you rang the bell. I think you were like, you and Christy were like, we're going to get this bitch out of this fucking.
I was just trying to smoke you out
And
of your hole.
I have like one of the, it's like a Spanish house or whatever. So there's like one of those little like prohibition doors. That
Yeah,
you
the little
open.
tiny window.
Yes. Like, what's the password? I opened the door and I was like, go away.
You were basically like, that's going to be a no.
I just was like, I can't. I just was so scared.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But the point of this was to say, like, have you had tension with friends who you're like, not to try and create drama, because you're very loved and beloved.
No. You can tell. Oh, no. People that don't. This is the thing. And this go back to the
Where
wisdom.
people, you're like, meet me where I am, and there are people.
They will not. Yeah, no one will do it. Very few people will do it.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny. So we bought a house in October, which was like huge.
Mazel.
Thank you. We have a big backyard, and that was a big deal, right? To be able to have people safely and be outside, which we hadn't been able to do because we had been in an apartment. And so now I'm like getting used to hosting, and I am fully Liz as a child. Like someone's coming over, and I'm like at the window. It's giving like War Widow, and I'm so nervous, and I keep being like, we need a range of seltzers. Like we need different beverages.
The range of seltzers.
Oh, I am deep into the range.
I had someone come over last night, which did help crack me out of my psychosis. And like, I realized I didn't have seltzers, and I
need at
went
least
on
3
Instacart,
flavors.
and I did what I still hate to do, which is I pressed that priority button
Yep.
because
You said,
I
"Get
needed
here.
the.
Get here now."
I was like, get here now. I cannot be caught with my spiritual pants down.
Absolutely.
Not
needed
having
that.
a lemon
Absolutely.
and
And
a
a pamplemousse.
Yes.
I don't do pamplemousse.
Oh, do you do a tangerine?
But your guests might, Jessi, and you have to
know.
be ready.
I feel like
What
at
if they want a
least-
limoncello?
Well, then they're not really my friend. I love War Widow. I love Cold
Oh my
Mountain.
God.
I love that.
I was so scared.
if
I'm
you're-
like, and I get so nervous, and then it's funny because we're outside, and the house isn't fully together, but we got the outdoor furniture, but then we realize we don't have like outdoor tables,
Sure.
for like
Oh, yeah.
set your beverage down, and then I go, I'm so sorry. Oh God, like I am not comfortable, and this goes back to this kind of only child like city where like I never grew up as the house where people came over
Oh,
to.
no.
Not the host. I still don't know how to really do it. And my husband Andy is, he had the hangout house as a kid. They would all kind of come over, and he's very casual about it. Because like my thing of like, we don't have something, and he's like, Naomi, our friends aren't going to judge us. And I'm like, that's exactly what they do.
Well, but
You know,
also
like-
I will say men, like,
Of course.
the way men hang out with other men is like, oh, we can have like a chicken bone on the floor and like, all like, gnaw like
Share it.
dogs.
Share one
they
bone.
don't care. They don't care. No,
Also,
they-
you're coming from private school,
Yes,
Exactly.
a little bit of that
Plato
Dalton
situation.
rubbed
Yes,
off.
yes.
Oh no, but also like afraid, like literally,
Of course.
nobody was coming up to Harlem back then,
Right,
right? And I remember
right.
the first time a friend came to visit me, which was junior year of high school, so we're 16. Her parents dropped her off and like came to the door and looked inside. And I remember
Wow.
being like, in my head, being like, she kind of old for this, ain't she? But then I was like, oh, they said we don't know where we said we don't know what this black woman lives like. They said we've got to do a loop. We have got to see the
Do a
area.
quick
You gotta
loop.
do a loop.
So I'm very like that, and I think with LA has triggered a lot of that just because we're in an industry with a lot of wealthy people.
Yes,
And there can
yes.
be such a huge disparity, and it's
Of
like
course.
our house is cute, but it's small. Like she's not doing the most, but she's mine, and then I just immediately am like, I'm sorry, it's all we could do.
It's not much,
You know
but
what I
it's
mean?
all we have.
By the way, just owning a house in Los Angeles
Yes.
makes you an actual queen because like it's
Thank you.
it's very hard
It's
to do
impossible.
that.
I know
Yeah.
it's nigh on impossible. It's nigh on impossible, and but it's just interesting because it does lately. Because the last couple weekends we've had people over, and And then, you can't just, nowadays, also just as what it is to host in 2025, not only do you need a range of seltzers, you need to be coming through with some gluten-free shit.
Thank you. I
Coming
appreciate
through
that.
with some vegan
You're
shit.
talking Liz
You need to be-
Feldman's language.
You need to have the range. You can't just, back in the day, you would have some chips and like
No.
DC. And now, you better be ready.
No, I need a nut thin.
What the hell is that?
Thank you. I need a Mary's cracker.
A Mary's cracker.
Liz is genuinely GF.
I am GF.
She's
I am.
a GF.
Yeah.
I know we're reaching the limits of our time. I mean, I could go. I am not a good host. But I do have people coming over tonight.
We love that.
And Brad.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
So who's coming?
I
'Cause
mean,
I
obviously you're both
Is it Liz?
invited.
Hadn't gotten the
Okay.
invite.
No,
just weird.
it's coming together just last minute, you guys. No, you totally. No, I would love for you both to come. But
I can't make it.
My basics are. Did you just say you can't make it?
I can't make it.
Yeah, looks like I'm busy actually.
I have Naomi and I have plans.
Okay.
So.
Okay. But I feel like I know that when we're done, I'm going to go get a Trader Joe's flower.
Yep.
Which I tried. We know there are a
Of
few
course.
kinds
Great
of
place to
flowers,
get
which
flowers.
you feel like you can't tell it's from Trader Joe's. I'm
If I
looking
can-
at.
Can I suggest one other great place to get flowers in Los Angeles? LA Grocery and Cafe. So good.
Okay, well,
beautiful
I'm
flowers.
going to Trader Joe's.
Thank you.
But you get your tulip. You get you get your every now and then
An orchid moment. An orchid moment.
a ranunculus.
You're
Sometimes they'll
ranunculus.
have- You're ranunculus. Okay.
We were wondering aloud to ourselves before talking to you, is Andy your husband? Do you consider him your best friend?
You know what?
It's a controversial
I do now,
question.
and I wouldn't have said that. Like, I would have never. That wasn't my goal. Like, I'm not
Right,
someone
right,
who was
right.
like,
I'm so sorry.
could you come again? I
one
couldn't
more
make
time?
out what
Just
you were
one
saying.
more time on that.
It's like not what I intended. But I think this in particular, certainly the pandemic, right? When it became
Right.
just me and him hanging out.
Yeah.
But even before that, just the move from New York to LA, our world got smaller and we were our primary hanger-outers. Because another thing you guys have to understand, I don't drive.
What?
So that also limits.
Oh my God, this is the most New York
Wow.
City topic. How did we go past this?
So I'm also like, he will drive me to things. Like, I've been going through some health stuff and he like drives me to my appointments. It's giving Green Book. And it's like, we are so much more enmeshed than we were before. Like, we're in New York, we just kind of had our own things. Like, I remember, we were close, obviously, but like, we each had our separate friends. Whereas I think here, a lot of it is like group friends and people we know together. And
Yeah.
then you spend 2 years in the house only talking to each other. And then it just becomes like, you want to hear every thought in my head? And then next thing you know, your husband's your best friend, like a basic bitch.
Your husband, your business.
My husband's my best friend.
Yeah.
And we are influencers and we love God and country.
Wow. So many jumps were just jumped.
It's all one bitch. And you know what I'm
it's
talking
all
about.
I know
one
exactly
bitch,
what
and
you're
I'm
talking
picturing.
about.
I am picturing a mug with a very specific basic bitch font that says "My husband's my best friend," and I think we all know that font.
But I feel like in parentheses, it's second only to Jesus.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, we're all truly married to Jesus at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Okay, we have a question that we always conclude with. We like to ask our guests what is their, we call it our ravioli moment, which was essentially based on just the fact that once I was having a hard time and my best friend brought me ravioli. But it's like great
moments in
great
friendship.
moments in friendship.
Great
Is there a
moments.
moment you can think of where a friend came through for you in a way that just lives in your heart as like, wow, that was really that's what friends are for.
What lifted me up. One of my really good friends, which I would say like one of my best adult friends, and even that is like now we talk once every 6 months, but I would still say she's one of my best adult friends.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
She came basically, I was like in it emotionally. And she came from New York to LA. And she came for like 2-3 days. Just to be like, hey girl, hey.
Oh.
And that's huge, especially because it was like, she's not made of money. I'm not like, it was like her being like, hey, I just wanted to see you. I wanted to see what was going on. And it's just like, I was like, oh my God, somebody cares about me that much?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's like, I'm still verklempt to this day thinking of it. And it's just interesting. because I feel like as I've gotten older too, a lot more friends are the people where it's like, we don't talk all the time, but when we talk, it's like no time has passed.
Yes.
The click
And you can just drop right into it, right? And that is like, especially too as people get older and they got kids and they're doing their thing, like, you know, it's not as much, but it's like, there's a handful of people who I could just call up and be like, girl, what? And then we just like, get into it. And that is so, it reminds me that I exist. We're talking about kind of, you know, this idea of being untethered. Like, that's when I'm tethered. I'm like, oh, I have this person who exists across this length of time. You know what I mean? Like somebody, like one of my really good friends, she's in New York and she is, we knew each other in high school, but then we really became friends in college. So she was a year younger than me. I knew her. Then we went to college together and that's when we really became friends. And so really, at this point, I've now known her 22, 23 years. And that's like my longest friend. And, you know, she's got these 2 little kids. And, you know, I don't understand having children, but I still love her.
Yeah.
No matter how she chooses to live her life.
Understood.
No, we
You know
get
what
it.
I mean?
We get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was like, I just like the people where you don't have to do stuff with. Again, I'm not worried about hosting. It's like, we're just there to sit and talk. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Effortless.
Honey, I'm tired. It's got to be effortless.
Yes.
I don't want to have to impress. It's like, can we, or like pretend to be okay.
Yeah.
Do you find, okay, well, I know we have to go, but let me tell you, okay, because it's my theory. It's a New York v. LA theory, which I know everyone has 100 of them.
Interesting.
But here's my thing. I believe in New York, complaining is a form of catharsis and connection.
Absolutely.
Meaning you walk into a space and it's like, God damn it, the subway. And God damn it, this thing. And everyone's like, yep, I know it. And it's like, that's how you kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Whereas I find in Los Angeles, it's about like good vibes only, projecting confidence, projecting winning, so that I realize I am a negative person, but my negativity is like, I'm not actually upset. It's like literally just how I see stuff. I'm like, can I tell you what fucked up thing happened? Because that's like the fun thing to talk about.
Yeah, that's such a good observation.
100%. And I was just experiencing this the other day. I feel like I experienced this a lot around like my kids' school. I agree. It's like a New York City love language.
It is.
It is just like,
it's the bitch and moan.
it's a
to just
bitch and
complain.
moan. And it's just like, but it's also an opportunity for us to both be funny.
Yes.
And to make
True,
jokes
yes.
because complaining is so funny.
Yes.
And like, I feel like there's been a couple of people where I'm like, hey, do you like to party? Do you want to complain? And like, and then it's like, and not that these people aren't super nice, but like they aren't like going into that. Like
they're not down for it. They feel like it's a little like,
I don't know how they feel about it, but they're just not doing it. And then I always feel like I am Pizza Rat, and I will drag. I am just gonna drag my full triangle of pizza back to the sewer where I fucking live. I'm like, sorry, like, okay, no complaints here.
Well, New York is a harder place to live. It's just a harder life. The lifestyle is rough. Like you are, you know, taking public transportation. You're in each other's faces. Everything smells. Everything's loud.
Yeah.
People are in your face.
Yeah.
And here we're in our cars and we're walking on streets
Yeah.
where like
It's like, have you seen the
Comfy if
movie
you wanna
Crash?
yeah.
Yes.
It's just like, you know,
Yes.
by the way,
It's just like that.
For
like-
me, the answer is no, I have not.
Yeah.
But I make the reference all the time.
Yes, you do.
Maybe we could at some point get together in a backyard.
yes.
Yes.
Have multiple seltzers. some
If you have
gluten-free
us
snacks.
over, I'll bring the gluten-free snacks and
I'll bring pamplemousse
You'll-
and whatever else you
Okay.
like.
Okay, we have a plan.
And we could just have like a New York City style complain sesh.
Would
And,
love it.
That'd be so fun.
I mean, how relaxing.
I'll even bring an outdoor table if you need it.
I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna get it together, Liz Feldman. I'm gonna get it together.
Okay,
Heat
here's
lamp,
where
outdoor table.
I was about to ask you, and I've been wanting to ask. Did you get that heat lamp?
No, and that's the thing. We have yet to have anyone over when the sun goes down.
Okay.
Heat lamp.
Okay, we are getting you a heat lamp.
We're getting you a heat
That
lamp.
is the most COVID essential purchase.
It really
I know,
was.
like a
yeah.
professional restaurant
I
style
know.
heat lamp.
I know exactly.
Something will be showing up at your door in 6 to 8 months.
Naomi, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything you want to mention to our listeners before we...
Well, you know what? If you enjoy hearing me yap my bones,
Sure
you can
do.
listen to my podcast, Couples Therapy. Episodes drop every Tuesday. Me and that husband I was mentioning, my best friend. We talk to people. We answer questions. We're having a good old time. And other than that, just keep doing what you're doing, ladies.
Oh, thank you,
God
Naomi.
bless. This was so fun. Thank you so much
You're
for
the
taking
best.
time.
You know what? I've never said this to you, but I love you.
Wow.
I love you, Liz Miss Roman?
Oh, she had to say it because I said it to her first.
Yes, but it's good that it felt natural, but
It did.
someone's got to take that first
You gotta
step. Someone's
take
got
the
to take
first
that first
step.
Someone's
step.
got to be
I took
vulnerable.
it. I opened my
Someone.
book to you.
Look, I'm going to go pray to Chumley's ashes. And thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thanks for listening. Follow us on social media at Here to Make Friends Pod and let us know who you think we should make friends with next. Email us at htmfpod@gmail.com and go out and make a friend.
Hey, try to make a friend today.
That was a Headgum podcast.